The Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921 stands as one of the single deadliest and most destructive acts of racial violence in American history. Occurring between May 31st and June 1st, 1921, the massacre involved white mobs attacking the prosperous black neighborhood of Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This event was not merely a riot, as it was long mislabeled, but a systematic assault that resulted in the complete obliteration of a thriving community. The destruction left thousands homeless, hundreds dead, and erasing generations of black wealth in less than 24 hours. Before the devastation, the Greenwood District was a shining example of African American economic independence and success. Established in the early 20th century, the district was founded by wealthy black landowners like O.W. Gurley, who purchased 40 acres of land with the express purpose of selling it to other African Americans. In an era of strict segregation, Greenwood became a sanctuary where black people could live and conduct business free from the daily humiliations of Jim Crow laws found elsewhere in the city. By 1921, Greenwood had earned the moniker Black Wall Street due to its profound affluence and self-sufficiency. The community boasted its own banks, hotels, cafes, clothiers, movie theaters, and contemporary homes, as well as a highly educated professional class of doctors, lawyers, and pharmacists. Money circulated within the community dozens of times before leaving, creating a concentrated bubble of wealth that rivaled and often surpassed that of the neighboring white districts. This success, however, bred deep resentment and jealousy among white Tulsans. The racial climate in Tulsa at the time was a powder keg waiting for a spark. The post-World War I era saw a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan and a national epidemic of lynchings. Returning black veterans, emboldened by their service abroad, were less willing to submit to racial subjugation, creating tension with a white populace determined to maintain white supremacy. It was against this backdrop of hostility that a minor incident in an elevator would be manipulated to justify mass slaughter. On May 30th, 1921, Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old black shoe signer, entered an elevator in the Drexel Building operated by Sarah Page, a 17-year-old white girl. While the exact details remain contested, it is widely believed that Rowland tripped and instinctively grabbed Page's arm, causing her to scream. A clerk nearby assumed an assault had occurred, leading to a police investigation. Although Page declined to press charges, the narrative of a black man assaulting a white woman was quickly weaponized by the local press. The Tulsa Tribune played a critical role in inciting the violence that followed. The newspaper ran a sensationalized headline, "Nab Negro for Attacking Girl in an Elevator," and reportedly published an editorial titled "To Lynch Negro Tonight," though the latter has been excised from archival copies. These inflammatory publications effectively issued a call to action for white residents, who began gathering outside the courthouse where Rowland was being held, demanding justice in the form of a lynching. Fearing that Rowland would be murdered by the mob, a group of black men, including World War I veterans, marched to the courthouse to offer their assistance in protecting him. They were turned away by the sheriff, but returned later that evening as the white mob grew larger and more agitated. The sight of armed black men asserting their rights infuriated the white crowd. A struggle ensued over a veteran's gun, a shot was fired, and the chaos began. As the outnumbered black defenders retreated toward Greenwood, the Tulsa police deputized members of the white mob. Authorities handed out badges and weapons to white civilians, effectively giving legal cover to a vigilante force. Rather than containing the violence, the local government empowered the rioters, transforming a chaotic skirmish into a state-sanctioned invasion of the Black District. The invasion of Greenwood began in earnest in the early hours of June 1st. Thousands of white rioters poured into the district, setting fire to businesses and homes. They looted valuables, destroyed property, and shot black residents on sight. The violence was indiscriminate. Men, women, children, and the elderly were all targeted as the mob moved block by block, leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. In a horrifying escalation, the massacre featured the aerial bombardment of an American city. Private planes, piloted by white assailants, were seen flying over Greenwood. Eyewitness accounts and historical evidence suggest that these planes were used to drop turpentine balls or incendiary devices onto rooftops. spreading the fires rapidly and preventing residents from extinguishing the flames. This aerial attack remains one of the few instances in history where American citizens were bombed from the air on their own soil. The destruction was total and systematic. The fire department, which could have saved many structures, was prevented from entering the district by the white mob. As a result, 35 square blocks of Greenwood were burned to the ground. Over 1,200 homes were destroyed, along with churches, schools, a hospital, and the public library. The infrastructure that had supported the community for nearly 2 decades was reduced to ash and rubble. The human toll was catastrophic. While official records at the time drastically undercounted the dead, modern historians and the 2001 Race Riot Commission estimate that as many as 300 Black people were killed. Survivors describe bodies being stacked on trucks and dumped in the Arkansas River or buried in mass graves. The brutality of the attack was intended not just to kill individuals, but to eradicate the spirit and existence of the community itself. When the National Guard eventually arrived and declared martial law, their actions further victimized the Black community. Instead of arresting the white rioters who were burning the city, the Guard rounded up thousands of Black survivors. They were marched at gunpoint to internment camps at the convention hall, the fairgrounds, and a baseball park. These survivors, who had just lost everything, were detained for days and could only be released if a white person vouched for them. The immediate aftermath left the once proud residents of Greenwood destitute. With their homes and businesses destroyed, thousands spent the winter of 1921 living in tents provided by the Red Cross. The immense wealth of Black Wall Street had been vaporized, estimated in the millions of dollars at the time, which would amount to hundreds of millions today. The generational wealth that should have been passed down was stolen, creating an economic deficit that arguably persists to this day. Adding to the injustice, the massacre was officially classified as a riot by city and state officials. This distinction was crucial because most insurance policies contained riot exclusion clauses. Consequently, insurance companies denied millions of dollars in claims filed by Black business owners and homeowners. The victims received no compensation for their losses, and the city actively impeded rebuilding efforts by passing strict fire codes meant to force Black residents off the land. Following the massacre, a culture of silence descended upon Tulsa. For decades, the event was deliberately omitted from school textbooks, official histories, and public conversation. White residents did not speak of it out of shame or complicity, and Black residents often remained silent out of fear of retribution. The conspiracy of silence was so effective that many people born and raised in Tulsa during the mid-20th century were completely unaware that the massacre had occurred. Despite the lack of aid and the city's obstruction, the resilience of the Greenwood community was remarkable. Black Tulsans refused to leave, and within a few years, they had rebuilt much of the district using their own resources and labor. By the 1940s, Greenwood was once again a thriving business center, although the psychological scars and the loss of original capital remained. However, subsequent urban renewal projects and highway construction in later decades would eventually sever the district again, causing a second wave of economic decline. It was not until the approach of the centennial in 2021 that a full public reckoning began. A state commission was formed to investigate the event, leading to the discovery of potential mass graves and renewed calls for justice. While legal battles for reparations for the last living survivors have faced significant hurdles, the Tulsa Race Massacre is now recognized as a pivotal chapter in American history. It serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of progress in the face of racial hatred and the enduring need for historical truth.